Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third Moody Talk on distress tolerance. So far, we've talked about what is distress tolerance? What do we need to allow ourselves to better tolerate stressful environments or stressful situations and events that we get into? And then we also last week spoke about skills that we can use that will help us to change our body chemistry physically, changes us in that moment so that we can be pulled out of the distressful situation or the distressful thoughts, things like that, and physically change our body chemistry, our temperature, our movements in order for us to get away from that stress, that distressful, situation, distressful thoughts, and what's happening inside, right? So those were the physical side with TIPP. Today we're going to be talking about A.C.C.E.P.T.S, which is more along the lines of what can we do more mindfully to get ourselves out of that distress as well. Some of these are in the moment. Some of the things are, as you're in this distressful situation where you can step back for a moment and say, you know what, I'm going to do something that I feel good about, that makes me feel better, and kind of just couch this for the moment and come back to it when I'm feeling less stressed, less intensely emotional about the situation. So we're going to talk more about A.C.C.E.P.T.S. So this is for, when DBT talks about A.C.C.E.P.T.S, these tricks, these, coping skills, it talks more about wise mind. So we talked about wise mind in mindfulness a few months back, and I highly recommend going back, if not the entire month of mindfulness, just going to the wise mind part. I think it's probably Moody Talk 2 that I discuss that, because it's really important to understand wise mind is walking between the lines of emotion mind and reason mind. Okay, so these are two extremes, and when you walk the middle path, you're walking wise mind. So you're bringing both in to help you to get through the moment. Okay, so let's get into it. So there's a lot on this page, but we're not going to do every single bit on this page. These are examples of things that we can do, and each letter is a skill in itself. Okay, so we're going to start with the A, and A is activities. Now, I know that we talked about last week doing things to change our body chemistry, our temperature, that kind of thing. This is a little different. Activities is just, you're focusing your attention on a task you need to get done, right? So you're taking yourself out of a distressful moment and saying, okay, we're couching this, and I'm going to go do what I was supposed to do throughout this day, okay? And then I will come back to this situation when I'm out of this intense emotion, and I can better be mindful of this situation and what we can, do to fix it, to understand it, that kind of thing. Okay, so activities include, playing a computer game is one of them. I've heard that for distressful moments, if you start to play Tetris, this is something I haven't done, but I really should do. But Tetris actually helps you to immediately come out of that distressful, intense emotion and get right straight into the Tetris game. So playing a video game, that's okay. If you are in distress, you're not, being lazy or anything like that by playing a video game. You're helping yourself to better cope with the situation you're going to need to deal with. It's okay to step away from situations and say, I need some boundary, something I need to do. I need to change this environment right now. And then when I'm in a better place, we can get back to the situation. Okay. So there's no reason to believe that you have to stay in a situation that is uncomfortable or it gives you an intense emotion. Okay? You have the right to step away. It also says, like go out for a meal to get your favorite food. Maybe you're really, really upset and, you're just about to make dinner, but you're so upset you can't really concentrate on what you're doing. Go grab some dinner out. And if that means the whole family, it means the whole family. If that's what needs to happen to get everyone out of an intense situation, couch it and let's go out and have something to eat. We'll figure things out after we're done. Okay? So that is activities. So the first C is contributing. Okay? So this means things like, maybe figure out if you want to volunteer at a place, right? Or, you want to get together a ton of old clothes that you used to have. And, you need to get them out of the house and you want to donate them. So that's what contributions are. You're getting away from your intense situation, going to that room that has all of the piled up clothing that you need to get rid of that you want to donate, right? So that's contributions, thinking about others while you're, maybe that's kind of the way that it helps you to be like, okay, I'm in this intense environment and I'd like to go do something for someone else. If that's kind of your like love language, then let's use that. Go ahead and put together a big bag to bring over to your favorite place to donate. Okay. So the C is comparisons. So this one's not my favorite. Okay. I'm going to be very, very open about this. I do not enjoy comparisons to myself about other people. And, some people, they do want to do that. They want to say, compare how you are feeling now to a time when you felt different. Maybe you just don't have that energy for that, right? Or think about people coping in the same as you are, less well than you are. I don't really need to compare myself to others, but people do this. Compare like somebody else has it worse than me. I don't find that effective or helpful for me, but it can be for others. Okay? So that's the like kind of comparisons thing. Compare yourself to those less fortunate. That can be helpful for some people, but not for everyone, because especially people with trauma, they don't need to be compared to another person on their pain, because everybody has their own pain. Okay. Then we get to emotions. Read emotional books or stories, old letters. Watch emotional TV shows. Go to emotional movies. So this is basically saying, okay, you're feeling this intense emotion. Let's go to the opposite of that intense emotion, maybe. Let's go see, like if you're really sad, let's go see a comedy, right? Let's talk, like read a book about like, just a funny book that you really like maybe someone's biography, maybe like Steve Martin has a great, awesome like book that makes you laugh all the time, right? My favorite is Dave Grohl's Storyteller. He always has a funny story in there. So maybe I open up that book and I start to read that, okay? And then the next is pushing away. So pushing away means push the situation away by leaving it for a while. Yeah, and that's a lot like the other things that I've talked about, but they give some more information on that. Build an imaginary wall between yourself and the situation. Notice ruminating. Yell no. So if you're going over and over and over with this intense emotion and you can't stop thinking about it or feeling it, you are ruminating. So see that. Notice that. That's what you're doing. You just can't stop repeating this, information, this intense emotion, the situation it got into. You need to stop. You're putting up a wall against that. And you can just physically say, no, I'm not continuing to do this. Okay. And it also says, like, refuse to think about the painful situation. Okay. Just no, done. I'm done with this and I'm going on to something else. Okay. And then there's thoughts. Count to 10. Count colors in a painting or poster or out the window. Count anything. Counting gets you out of the situation. I was reading something and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was you're doing something specific that immediate humming. Humming makes you stop thinking. Okay? Humming, you cannot have a thought while you're humming. And I think that's the greatest thing. So that's something that you can do. You can start to hum your favorite song, right? Or, just something that's going to stop that intense emotion, that stressful thing that's going on in your mind, right? Just stop it. Humming. I'm going to start using that all the time now. So I highly suggest trying it yourself. And then the last one is sensations. So we talked about this last week with TIPP. Squeeze a rubber ball very hard. Maybe you have one of those fidget tools, Um, Listen to very loud music. So this is basically using all of your different sensations to get you out of this emotion mind, this intense emotional feeling. Okay. So they also say go out in the rain or snow. So one of the things I use in TIPP that's similar to this is if it's wintertime, I will go straight outside and stand outside, no coat, anything, walk around, have the cold in my face. I hate the cold, so it works. Okay. So, hold ice in your hand or mouth. So you're changing the body temperature, just like in TIPP from last week. Now, TIPP has a lot more to talk about when it comes to the physical side of things. But these are more mindful ones. These ones aren't ripping you out of the moment. You're taking a step back from the situation and you're choosing to do something to help you to calm down, to feel less emotionally intense. So A.C.C.E.P.T.S is a great set of coping skills for distress tolerance. And I've used many of them, and it's really effective. If you pick out the ones that work best for you, maybe go through, I'll put this sheet up, and go through these different, activities, these different contributions that you can do, the things that they talk about. Maybe pick one or two that might work for you. Focus on those, work on those, get yourself used to automatically doing them when you're in intense emotion. I hope that helped. I think it's really important for us to continue to build the toolbox for all of the different parts of DBT that we talk about, for distress tolerance, for emotion regulation, interpersonal communication, right? So we're continuing to do that. I hope that with these examples, you might be able to find ones that work best for you. I want you guys to build that toolbox because I guarantee you when you're in the moment and you've already built up these skills, they're going to come naturally to you. So that's it for this week. That's it for A.C.C.E.P.T.S. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next week.